As the years pass, the mind sharpens while the body slows. And in this shift, something becomes clearer than ever. You no longer have time for the wrong people. When you were younger, you tolerated them, excused them, even loved them despite their flaws. But in old age, tolerance is no longer wisdom. It is exhaustion. There are people in this world who seem to take more than they give, not in material things, but in something far more precious. And they walk into a room and the air grows heavy. They speak and the weight of their words lingers long after they have left. These individuals may not come with ill intent, yet their presence drains the spirit, leaving you exhausted, depleted, and questioning why you feel so tired after being around them. Some people carry a storm wherever they go. They are filled with complaints, grievances, and endless tales of misfortune. They do not seek solutions, nor do they want advice. They simply wish to unload, to place the burden of their problems upon anyone willing to listen. And for years, perhaps even decades, you might have indulged them, believing it was kindness to offer an ear, to nod in sympathy, to assure them that everything would be fine. But as time moves forward, you begin to notice a pattern. They do not change, and their troubles never fade. They circle the same miseries, reliving them, feeding on them, and expecting you to carry the weight alongside them. And so the energy you could have spent on your own peace is drained, siphoned away into a void that never fills. Then there are those who seem to thrive on conflict. They speak with sharp tongues, always searching for something to argue about, always looking for an enemy where there is none. To them, every conversation is a battleground, every opinion a potential weapon. You may have once engaged, tried to reason with them, even attempted to calm them, but soon you realize that they are not interested in peace. They find comfort in discord, in the rising tensions of an argument, in the satisfaction of proving someone wrong. Their words do not nourish, they deplete. Being around them is like standing in the wind of an endless storm, and no matter how steady you try to remain, you will eventually find yourself exhausted from the struggle. Some people do not argue, nor do they complain, yet their presence still weighs heavy. These are the ones who always seem to be in need, but never of anything tangible. It is not food or money or shelter they require. It is attention, validation, a constant reassurance that they are not alone in their struggle. They look to you for support, for strength, for something to hold on to when their own foundation is weak. And at first you might offer it willingly, believing that this is simply what kindness demands. But soon you find that no matter how much you give, it is never enough. They will always need more. More time, more patience, more emotional labor. They do not wish to stand on their own. They wish to lean, to be carried. And if you let them, they will take so much that you have nothing left for yourself. There are also those who never seem to find joy in anything. They are neither openly negative nor outright malicious, but there is an absence in them, a lack of enthusiasm, a resistance to happiness. When you share good news, they meet it with indifference. When you express excitement, they dull it with half-hearted responses. It is not that they are cruel, but they seem incapable of lifting others up. They move through life in a state of perpetual apathy, and their energy seeps into the spaces they occupy, pulling the brightness from every interaction. And if you spend too much time around them, you will find your own light dimming, your own sense of joy slipping into their quiet, colorless world. Perhaps the most subtle of all energy drainers are those who exist in a constant state of comparison. They measure themselves against you not in admiration, but in silent competition. They do not celebrate your success, they endure it. Every achievement you reach, every moment of happiness you express is met with an unspoken challenge, as if your joy somehow takes away from theirs. And though they may not voice their resentment, you can feel it, a quiet tension in the air, an unspoken discomfort whenever life treats you kindly. To be around them is to constantly feel as though you must shrink yourself, make yourself smaller, dull your own victories to maintain the fragile balance they require. And over time this takes its toll, until you no longer feel the freedom to be truly happy in their presence. What makes these individuals so dangerous is not their actions, but the slow erosion of energy they cause. It is not one moment of exhaustion, not one conversation that leaves you drained, but the gradual, relentless depletion of your spirit. They do not take all at once. They take in pieces, bit by bit, until one day you wake up and realize you have nothing left to give. And it is in this moment that you must choose. Continue allowing them to pull from your well, or finally step away and reclaim what is yours. Manipulators are not always obvious. They do not always shout, demand, or force. Many wear a mask of kindness, of concern, of familiarity. They come as friends, as family, as trusted figures who claim to have your best interests at heart. Yet beneath their words lies something else, a quiet, persistent attempt to bend your will, to shape your choices, to make you believe that what they want is also what you want. And often they succeed, not by force, but by persuasion, by guilt, by the slow erosion of your confidence in your own decisions. They are masters of obligation, skilled in the art of making you feel as though you owe them something. It does not matter if what they have done for you was given freely. Somehow it always becomes a debt. They remind you of favors from years ago, of sacrifices they made, of the times they stood by you not out of love, but as leverage for the future. When you hesitate, they bring up the past. After everything I've done for you, they say, their voice heavy with disappointment. And suddenly the decision is no longer your own. You feel compelled to comply, not because you want to, but because denying them feels like betrayal. Some do not use guilt, they use doubt. They plant small seeds, tiny thoughts that grow over time. They question your choices subtly, never outright disagreeing, just making small remarks that cause you to second-guess yourself. Are you sure this is the right decision? I just don't want you to make a mistake. I'm only saying this because I care. The words seem harmless, even considerate, but beneath them lies a hidden intention. To make you question your judgment, to make you rely on their approval before you act. And before you realize it, you find yourself seeking their opinion on every matter, afraid to move without their reassurance. Others manipulate through emotion, controlling you not with words, but with reactions. When they do not get their way, they withdraw, become distant, turn cold. The warmth disappears. The conversations grow short, and suddenly you feel as though you have done something wrong. But when you ask, they deny it. Nothing's wrong, they say, yet their silence speaks louder than words. And so you adjust, you soften, you bend, doing whatever it takes to bring them back to their usual self. What you do not realize is that this is exactly what they want, to make you fear their withdrawal, to make you so uncomfortable with their coldness that you never resist them again. There are those who manipulate not with distance but with affection. They shower you with praise, kindness, and warmth, making you feel seen, valued, important. They build you up, make you trust them, make you believe that they are the one person who truly understands you. And then, once that trust is secured, they begin to change the terms of your relationship. They start asking for more. More time, more favors, more sacrifices. And when you hesitate, they remind you of their affection. I thought we were close. I thought you cared about me. I would do this for you in an instant. And so, out of fear of losing their approval, you comply. But over time, the affection becomes conditional, given only when you obey, withheld when you resist. What felt like love was never love at all. It was a currency, something to be exchanged, something used to control. Some manipulators use kindness, but others use fear. They do not build you up, they tear you down. They remind you of your weaknesses, your insecurities, the ways in which you have failed. They make you feel small, incapable, unsure of yourself. You wouldn't last a day without me. You always make bad decisions. I know what's best for you. And after hearing it enough times, you start to believe them. You start to think that perhaps they are right, that maybe you do need them, that maybe without their guidance you would make a terrible mistake. They keep you in a place of dependence not by lifting you up, but by convincing you that you are too weak to stand on your own. Then there are those who turn every situation to their advantage, who twist reality itself until you no longer know what is true. They deny things they have said, dismiss your feelings as overreactions, make you question your own memory. You confront them, and they tell you that you are imagining things. You bring up past conversations, and they insist they never happened. Slowly, you begin to doubt yourself. You wonder if you are being too sensitive, too dramatic. You stop trusting your own mind, and instead, you trust them. This is the most dangerous kind of manipulation, for it does not just control your actions, it reshapes your entire sense of reality. Some manipulators are subtle, while others are direct. Some wear the mask of a loving friend, while others stand in the open, using intimidation instead of charm. But they all share one thing in common: the desire to bend your will without force, to make you act against yourself without realizing it. And the longer you allow them into your life, the more you lose sight of where their desires end and your own begin. There are people in this world who seem to thrive on chaos, who find comfort in stirring the waters, in keeping tension alive, even when there is no reason for it. They are drawn to conflict, the way fire is drawn to dry wood, feeding off every spark, turning small matters into grand spectacles. They are never at peace, and so they make sure that no one around them is either. It is not enough for them to live their own lives. They must involve themselves in the lives of others, weaving themselves into situations that do not concern them, creating trouble where there was none. They move through life collecting stories, not for wisdom or understanding, but as ammunition. Every conversation, every personal detail shared with them becomes a tool to be used later, a thread to pull when they decide it is time to unravel something. They remember past mistakes, past conflicts, past wounds, and they bring them back when it serves their purpose. If there is a moment of peace, they disturb it. If people are getting along, they introduce doubt. They whisper, they hint, they plant small suspicions, letting them grow in the minds of others. And when tensions rise, they step back, pretending to be innocent, as if they had no hand in the discord. Some of them play the victim, spinning every situation in such a way that they always emerge as the one who has been wronged. No matter the circumstances, no matter what they have done, they find a way to shift the blame, to gather sympathy, to paint themselves as misunderstood or betrayed. They cry of injustice, of cruelty, of how the world has treated them unfairly. And yet, if you watch closely, you will see that their suffering is never private. It is always a performance, always meant to be seen, always meant to draw others into their orbit. They do not seek resolution, they seek attention. Others take the opposite approach, positioning themselves as the hero in every tale, the wise one, the protector, the person who always knows what is best. They place themselves at the center of every dispute, not to bring peace, but to assert control. They offer advice not to help, but to manipulate. They claim to know who is right, who is wrong, who can be trusted, who cannot. They create divisions, forcing people to take sides, ensuring that there is always tension, always uncertainty, always a reason to turn to them for guidance. They do not resolve problems, they prolong them, stretching them out so that they are always needed, always relevant, always the one holding the threads. Some of them thrive on secrets, on half-truths, on the art of selective honesty. They know just how much to reveal, just how much to conceal, just how to phrase things so that misunderstandings grow naturally, as if by accident. They never lie outright. Instead, they let others fill in the gaps with their own assumptions. They leave just enough unsaid to create doubt, to make people question each other, to ensure that no trust is ever fully secure. And when people turn against one another, they step aside, watching as their carefully planted seeds of confusion take root. They are drawn to arguments the way some are drawn to warmth, always finding a reason to insert themselves, always turning minor disagreements into major conflicts. They act as though they are merely observers, as though they are caught in the middle, as though the chaos around them is not of their own making. But if you look closely, you will see the patterns, the way problems seem to follow them, the way peace never lasts in their presence. They do not solve problems, they amplify them. Perhaps the most dangerous thing about these people is the way they drain energy, not in a single moment, but slowly, over time. At first, their drama seems almost entertaining, a distraction, something to watch from the sidelines. But eventually it pulls you in, demands your involvement, forces you to take part in conflicts that were never yours to begin with. And before you realize it, you are exhausted, caught in a cycle of endless tension, constantly trying to fix things, to smooth things over, to bring peace where none is wanted. Because that is the truth. These people do not want peace. They need disorder, they need conflict, they need something to talk about, something to react to, something to keep the fire burning. They come in many forms. Friends, family, acquaintances, who always seem to be in the middle of some crisis, some betrayal, some great injustice. They bring their storms with them, and if you are not careful, they will pull you into their world of endless turmoil. And the longer you stay, the more you lose sight of what it feels like to live without constant tension, without the weight of unnecessary drama. There are those who move through life with a quiet assumption that the world owes them something. They do not ask, they expect. They do not appreciate, they demand. They believe without question that they are entitled to your time, your effort, your kindness, your sacrifices, and they take, always take, without hesitation, without gratitude, without ever considering that perhaps, just perhaps, they have no right to what they so easily claim as theirs. They disguise their entitlement as familiarity, as closeness, as love. They lean on history, on shared moments, on the unspoken rules of family and friendship. You should help me, they say, not as a request, but as a statement, as if the very nature of your relationship makes your willingness to give an obligation rather than a choice. If you hesitate, they act as if you have done them some great wrong, as if your refusal is a betrayal, as if your boundaries are an insult. They do not consider what you might need, what you might want. To them your purpose is to provide, to give, to serve. And if you do not, they make it clear that you have disappointed them. Some of them take in subtle ways, always positioning themselves as the ones in need, always finding a way to turn the situation in their favor. They remind you of your responsibilities, of your role, of the things you are supposed to do for them. And if you question it, they dismiss you, tell you that you are being selfish, that you are making a big deal out of nothing. They expect favors without acknowledgement, support without gratitude, effort without recognition. It does not occur to them that giving should be mutual, that relationships should be built on balance, that no one is meant to be a constant source of comfort while receiving nothing in return. Others are more direct, making their demands known without pretense. They believe their needs come first, that their priorities should be yours, that their desires outweigh your own. When they need something, they expect you to provide it, and when you do, it is never enough. No matter how much you give, they will always need more. More attention, more help, more sacrifices. And when you finally reach the point where you cannot give anymore, when you try to step back to reclaim your time, your energy, they make you feel guilty for it. They tell you that you are abandoning them, that you are being unfair, that they deserve more. And for a moment you wonder if they are right. These people do not ask how you are, not in any way that matters. They do not offer support when you are struggling. They do not check in on you unless they need something. To them, your role is to be available, to be useful, to meet their expectations. And if one day you decide to stop, to say no, to walk away, they will act as though you have wronged them. They will not understand, because they never saw you as a person with your own needs, only as a source, a giver, someone who existed to make their life easier. Perhaps the most dangerous thing about these people is the way they slowly erode your sense of self. At first it seems natural to help, to support, to be there for them. But over time you realize that you are giving too much, that you are being drained, that you are losing parts of yourself just to keep up with their demands. And yet, even when you see it, it is hard to step away, because they have conditioned you to believe that it is your responsibility to be what they need. They will never change, because they do not see a problem. In their minds, they deserve what they take, and if you are no longer willing to provide it, they will simply find someone else who will. They do not understand gratitude, because they have never had to earn what they receive. They do not understand boundaries, because they have never respected them, and they do not understand loss, because they have never valued what was given to them in the first place. There are people who live in the past, not as a place of fond memories or lessons learned, but as a trap they refuse to escape. They cling to old days as if nothing beyond them holds meaning, as if the best of life has already been lived, and everything ahead is a slow decline into irrelevance. And they do not do this alone. No, they seek company in their nostalgia, pulling others into their longing, convincing them that the present is empty, that the future is bleak, that only the past was real. They remind you of who you were, not to celebrate growth, but to bind you to an older version of yourself. They speak of the way things used to be, how you used to think, how you used to act, as if those moments were the peak of your existence. If you have changed, if you have moved forward, they see it not as evolution but as a loss. They do not honor the person you have become. They mourn the person you no longer are. And in their mourning, they try to resurrect what has already passed, dragging you back into a world that no longer exists. They speak as though time has betrayed them, as if the world was once kind and has since turned cold. They remind you of people who have drifted away, of places that no longer feel the same, of moments that can never be relived. And they do not do this with joy, but with a quiet bitterness, a longing that seeps into every conversation. They do not seek to remember, they seek to return. And in their desire to go back, they reject everything that is unfolding before them. Some of them live in stories they have told 100 times, each retelling more exaggerated than the last, each detail a little more polished, a little less real. They shape the past into something grand, something untouchable, something that nothing in the present could ever compare to. They tell you that things were better then, that people were different, that life had more meaning. And if you are not careful, you start to believe them. You start to look at your own life with doubt, to measure it against an illusion, to wonder if you have somehow fallen short of something greater. Others hold on to past relationships, not in a way that honors love or friendship, but in a way that refuses to accept change. They speak of old bonds as if they should never have faded, as if growth is a betrayal, as if distance is unnatural. If someone has moved on, they call it abandonment. If someone has changed, they call it a loss. They do not accept that people evolve, that connections shift, that nothing is meant to stay the same forever. Instead, they dwell in what was, unable to embrace what is. They resent time itself, as if it has stolen from them, as if it has taken something they had a right to keep. They talk about old traditions as if they were sacred, about past experiences as if they were the only ones that mattered. They dismiss new things, new ideas, new ways of living, seeing them as inferior, as lacking. And in doing so, they make the world around them smaller, closing themselves off from anything that does not fit the narrative they have built. Perhaps the most dangerous thing about these people is the way they make you question your own path. They pull at your memories, at the comfort of the past, making you wonder if you have left something important behind. They remind you of moments when things felt simple, when things felt safe, when the future was unknown but exciting, and if you let them, they will convince you that nothing ahead can ever match what has already been. But the past is not a home. It is a lesson. It is a place to visit, to remember, to learn from, but not to live in. Those who refuse to step forward become stuck, trapped in a cycle of longing that never ends, never fulfilled. They grow bitter with time, resenting the present, fearing the future, clinging to a past that is slipping further away. And in their fear, they try to take others with them, keeping them from moving forward, keeping them from embracing what is still to come. There are some who carry their resentment quietly, without confrontation, without words, without ever making their feelings known in any direct way. They do not argue, they do not lash out, they do not express disappointment openly. Instead, they let their bitterness simmer beneath the surface, hiding it behind forced smiles, empty conversations, and a coldness that is felt but never acknowledged. They may seem polite, even friendly, but there is an undercurrent of something unspoken, a lingering weight in their presence that drains the air from the room. They do not forget past grievances, no matter how small or unintentional. Every perceived slight, every moment where they felt overlooked or unappreciated, becomes a wound they nurse in silence. They do not seek resolution because, in truth, they do not want it. They hold on to their resentment as if it gives them power, as if it justifies their coldness, their distance. They replay old situations in their minds, twisting them, feeding them, ensuring that their bitterness never fades, and though they say nothing, their actions reveal everything. They show their resentment in the little ways, in the things they withhold rather than the things they say. They will not offer support when you need it, even if it costs them nothing. They will not celebrate your victories, even when they pretend to. They will not make the effort to connect, to share warmth, to be present. Instead, they will stand at a distance, watching, waiting, and carrying their grudges like a quiet fire that never quite burns out. They will not attack you outright, but they will make sure you feel their displeasure in ways you cannot always define. They are the ones who remember favors given but never returned. They keep score, measuring every interaction, tallying up every imbalance in their mind, and though they may never ask for repayment, they will resent you if they feel they have given more than they received. They will not tell you that they feel used or unappreciated. Instead, they will punish you in silence, through indifference, through withdrawal, through a steady erosion of warmth that leaves you wondering if you did something wrong. They are the ones who wait for your failures, not because they wish to see you suffer, but because it reassures them. It confirms in their mind that the universe is just, that their resentment was justified, that you were never truly deserving of what you had, and when you fall, they will not say anything cruel, but there will be something in their expression, in their tone, in the way they carry themselves, a quiet satisfaction, a silent confirmation that they were right all along. They do not seek revenge in obvious ways. They do not confront or demand apologies. Instead, they choose distance. They choose coldness. They choose to watch as the relationship withers without explanation. And the worst part is they will never admit to any of it. If confronted, they will act as if nothing is wrong, as if the shift in their behavior is purely imagined. They will deny their resentment, insisting that everything is fine, even as their actions say otherwise. Some of them resent those who have outgrown them. They look at those who have changed, who have moved forward, who have embraced new opportunities, and instead of feeling happy for them, they feel abandoned. They see progress as a betrayal, as if others were meant to stay in place alongside them. They take it personally when people evolve, when they gain confidence, when they step into new roles, as if every step forward is a step away from them. And rather than express this feeling, they let it fester, letting their silent resentment build until it becomes a wall that can never be broken. Others resent those who have what they feel they deserve. It is not envy in the obvious sense, not a desire to take what someone else has, but a quiet belief that life has been unfair. They do not openly express their discontent, but it seeps into their interaction. They downplay achievements, withhold congratulations, respond to good news with forced enthusiasm or disinterest. They do not openly sabotage, but they do not uplift either. Their resentment manifests as absence, as emotional distance, as a slow withdrawal that is felt but never acknowledged. Perhaps the most dangerous thing about these people is the way their resentment poisons relationships without a word ever being spoken. It is not the kind of conflict that can be resolved with a conversation, because there is no conversation to be had. It lingers in the air, unnoticed at first, until one day the connection is gone entirely, eroded not by arguments or betrayals, but by the slow, steady decay of silent bitterness. And by the time you realize what has happened, it is already too late. There are those who do not seek understanding, solutions, or growth. They seek only sympathy, a steady stream of it, as if their survival depends on the constant validation of their suffering. They are not interested in overcoming their struggles or in finding a way forward. They are interested in holding on to their pain, in making it their identity, in ensuring that others recognize and acknowledge it at all times. They wear their hardships like a badge, expecting the world to adjust itself around their misery. They are not content with fleeting moments of compassion. They do not simply share their burdens to unburden themselves. They share them to control, to keep others tethered to their sadness, to make sure that their suffering is never forgotten. Their pain is not something to be healed. It is something to be fed, nurtured, kept alive through the attention of others. And if you do not give them the reaction they seek, they will make you feel as if you have failed them, as if your care is insufficient, as if your presence is meaningless unless it is spent tending to their wounds. They do not look for advice, because advice would mean change, and change would mean losing the identity they have built around their struggles. If you try to offer solutions, they dismiss them. If you try to lift them, they resist. They will always have a reason why things cannot improve, why they cannot move forward, why nothing will ever get better. They do not want to be helped, they want to be pitied, because in pity they find comfort. In pity they find a reason to remain as they are. They make you feel guilty for any joy you experience in their presence. If you share good news, they will counter it with their misfortunes. If you express excitement, they will remind you of the weight of their suffering. Over time, you learn to censor yourself, to hold back your happiness, to dim your light, so that it does not shine too brightly next to their darkness. And before you know it, your energy is no longer your own. It is spent managing their emotions, carrying their burdens, tiptoeing around their fragility. They manipulate through their suffering, though they would never call it manipulation. They do not demand with words, but with silence, with sad eyes, with deep sighs and heavy pauses. They expect others to notice, to ask, to comfort, to reassure. And if you do not, they will not lash out. They will retreat, pulling away just enough to make you wonder if you have done something wrong, just enough to make you reach for them, just enough to make you feel responsible for making things right again. They make you their caretaker, not through force, but through obligation. They position themselves as helpless, as incapable of standing on their own, as in need of constant emotional tending. And if you try to step away, even for a moment, they make you feel as if you are abandoning them, as if your presence is the only thing keeping them afloat. You become trapped in an endless cycle of reassurance, never allowed to step too far, never allowed to focus on yourself. They compare their pain to yours, always ensuring that their suffering is greater, more important, more deserving of attention. If you are struggling, they will remind you that they have it worse. If you are tired, they will insist that their exhaustion is deeper. If you are hurt, they will make it clear that their wounds run far deeper than yours ever could. There is no room for your struggles, no space for your emotions, because their pain must always take center stage. They do not give back. They are not there when you need them, not because they do not care, but because they do not know how. They are so consumed by their own suffering that they cannot see beyond it. When you need comfort, they redirect the conversation back to themselves. When you need support, they remind you of all the ways they are struggling. Even in your hardest moments, you find yourself offering them reassurance, making sure they are okay, making sure they are okay, making sure their pain is acknowledged. Perhaps the most dangerous thing about these people is the way they make you doubt yourself. They make you feel as if your role in their life is to carry them, as if you are failing them whenever you focus on yourself. They drain you, slowly, steadily, making you feel guilty for ever putting yourself first. And the more time you spend with them, the more you forget what it feels like to live without the weight of their suffering pressing down on you. There are those who do not recognize limits, who see no distinction between what is theirs and what belongs to others, who move through life assuming that access to you is their right rather than a privilege. They do not ask before stepping into your space. They do not consider before making demands. And they do not pause to wonder whether their presence is welcome. They operate under the belief that because they have always been allowed in, they will always be allowed in regardless of how it affects you. They do not take no for an answer. To them, no is not a firm boundary, but an obstacle to be worn down over time. They will push, insist, negotiate, and guilt-trip until your refusal turns into a reluctant yes. They do not respect your time, your energy, or your peace of mind. They will call when they want, appear when they choose, and expect you to accommodate them, no matter the cost to you. And when you try to create space, they make you feel as if you are being selfish, as if your need for distance is an offense rather than a necessity. They make everything urgent, everything important, everything a priority that you must attend to. Their problems become your problems, their crises your responsibility. They expect you to drop what you are doing at a moment's notice, to rearrange your life to fit their needs. They do not ask if you are available, they assume you are. They do not check if you have the capacity to take on more, they assume you do. And if you dare to hesitate, they act as if you have failed them, as if your reluctance is proof of your neglect. Rather than a simple assertion of your own limits, they do not understand privacy. They listen in on conversations that do not concern them, insert themselves into matters that are not theirs to be involved in, and ask questions that go beyond what should be shared. They expect to know everything, to be included in every detail, to have unrestricted access to your thoughts, your plans, your life. And if you hold something back, they act wounded, as if secrecy is an act of betrayal rather than a basic right. They want full access to you not because they need it, but because they believe they are entitled to it. They cross emotional boundaries just as easily as they cross physical ones. They will unload their burdens onto you without consideration, expecting you to absorb their frustrations, their disappointments, their anxieties, without ever stopping to think about what it might be doing to you. They do not check if you are in the right state to take on their problems. They simply bring them to you and leave them there. And when they leave, they feel lighter. But you are left carrying what was never yours to begin with. They refuse to accept that you are not responsible for their emotions. If they are upset, they expect you to fix it. If they are unhappy, they expect you to provide the solution. They lean on you without limits, without restraint, without regard for what it might be taking from you. And if you dare to step back, to assert that their happiness is not your duty, they will make you feel as if you are abandoning them, as if setting boundaries is an act of cruelty rather than an act of self-preservation. They test limits constantly, pushing further each time, seeing how much you will tolerate before you finally resist. They ask for a little more, and then a little more, and then a little more, until what once seemed like a small request has become an expectation, a demand, a new standard that you never agreed to. And if you push back, they act as if you have changed, as if your refusal is a personal attack rather than a necessary correction to an imbalance that should never have existed in the first place. They do not take accountability for the ways they overstep. If you confront them, they will insist that they meant no harm, that you are overreacting, that they were only trying to help. They will not acknowledge the exhaustion they have caused, the resentment they have built, the way their presence has become a weight you no longer wish to carry. Instead, they will turn it back on you, making you feel as if your boundaries are unreasonable, as if your limits are unfair, as if it is your responsibility to accommodate them rather than their responsibility to respect you. And the longer they remain in your life, the harder it becomes to separate their needs from your own. You begin to second-guess yourself, to wonder if you are being too rigid, too unkind, too distant. You begin to tolerate things that should never be tolerated, to allow intrusions that should never be allowed, to bend in ways you were never meant to bend. And before you realize it, your life is no longer your own. It has become an extension of theirs, shaped by their expectations, dictated by their demands, controlled by their inability to recognize the space that should never have belonged to them in the first place. In the final stretch of life, the greatest gift you can give yourself is peace. Peace of mind, peace of heart, and peace from those who disrupt your well-being. The people you surround yourself with will either uplift you or drain you. And in old age, you no longer have the luxury of carrying unnecessary burdens. Energy drainers will leave you exhausted. Manipulators will twist your reality. Drama seekers will keep you in turmoil. Entitled takers will deplete your kindness. Nostalgia trappers will chain you to the past. Silent resenters will erode your trust. Pity pushers will drown you in their sorrow, and boundary breakers will strip you of your autonomy. You do not owe anyone your time, your energy, or your presence if they bring you nothing but distress. Age does not mean you must tolerate disrespect, nor does family mean you must endure toxicity. Choosing to protect yourself is not selfish. It is survival. The people who truly care for you will respect your boundaries, honor your peace, and walk beside you without taking more than they give. Let go of those who do not. The years ahead are yours to live on your terms, without guilt, without obligation, and without the weight of those who do not deserve to stay.